Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dottie Lofstrom. This is a special meeting of the Civil Service Commission. The date is Thursday, June 20th, 2024, and it's 3:00 p.m. I call this meeting to order.
Okay. Good afternoon. Let's do some roll call. Commissioner Lofstrom.
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
And the record will show that Commissioner Rulapon is not present today.
Thank you. If you see in the agenda for the special meeting, we have two sets of minutes. One is the one for the May 8th meeting that we had with our packet last time. The second one is a very short one. Ms. Jolie, do you need a moment to review it? It looks like this, very short.
This one here?
Yes.
I'm good.
Thank you. So I'll approve a motion to accept or comment and edit the minutes of the May 8th meeting, 2024.
Just like to go on the record and apologize for my absence in my last meeting. I do sincerely apologize. I don't regret the conversation I was having. However, it made me forget my schedule, so I do apologize for that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of May 8th as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, those have passed. Let's move on to the minutes for June 12th, 2024. Again, a motion.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the minutes as presented for June 12th.
Okay.
This Commissioner Gutierrez.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 And the motion passed as well. All right, on the next item, would that be Ms. Goodman, I assume?
Certainly. Good afternoon. The next item on the agenda is a report of disciplinary action. We have two reports for your approval today. One is an order of dismissal from the Assessor Recorder County Clerk's Office, which has been appealed to arbitration. And the second is an order of dismissal out of the Human Services Agency with no appeal.
Okay, thank you. And so the action that's required is that we accept this report of disciplinary action, and that requires a motion.
A motion to accept.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We've accepted the report. And with that, we can move on to the classification project for the sheriff's office.
Hello, my name is Sylvia. I'm a personnel analyst presenting classification project 23-031 for Sheriff's Animal Services Officer 1 and 2. So as part of San Joaquin County's Sheriff's Office mission, the department is driven to investigate problems, seek solutions, and foster a sense of security in communities and individuals. I'd like to discuss one way the department has implemented this mission. Often, the Animal Services Officer, ASO, is thought of as a dog catcher. Historically, in the event of a crime against an animal, a sheriff deputy would need to report to the scene to conduct the investigation. Now, the sheriff's office utilizes ASOs as primary investigators for these crimes. By California law, as animal control officers, these employees may exercise the power of arrest of a peace officer and the power to serve warrants after completing required training courses. Under supervision of a sheriff sergeant, this means ASOs would legally act as the primary investigators in animal-related crimes. This change has allowed for quicker turnaround on these cases, with several serious cases having been submitted and taken up by the district attorney's office. Both the entry and journey level classifications were created in December of 2002 and last amended in 2015. This recent class study identified the expansion of the ASO role and determined certain spec amendments were necessary. ASOs may interview victims, witnesses, and subjects, collect and book evidence, write and execute warrants, and prepare criminal cases for desired prosecution. ASOs may also make arrests related to violations of certain animal laws. Further, ASOs frequently utilize specialized equipment and techniques when working with large animals. The Sheriff's Office has developed a training program for all animal service officers to ensure competency in these assigned duties. So with all that being said, I would like to recommend the spec amendments to the class characteristics, typical duties, knowledge, and abilities section in both the Sheriff Animal Services Officer 1 and 2 classifications. These amendments will better reflect and clarify the essential functions of the positions as identified in the class study. Also, this change will not have a negative impact on the incumbents, nor will it impede any recruitment efforts. Also, this change has been shared with SCIU, and with us today, I have Captain Petrino, if we would have any additional questions.
Oh, is the captain here?
He's on electronically, or on Teams.
I'd like to ask him a question.
Before we open it up for comments from the commission, there's something I'd like to explain to Captain Petrino. So this group has had an ongoing discussion about the word interpret. And the one side of this discussion says that only the Supreme Court can interpret
Courts.
law.
Only courts.
Thank you. He's definitely the attorney, not I. Only the courts can interpret law.
Right.
The other side of the discussion says, well, that's true in determining law, that in the everyday use of the word, interpret doesn't have the same weight, and that it means something entirely different. It's a more practical way. Nonetheless, we have spent some time as a group looking for alternative ways to say interpret. For example, read and apply, describe and apply, understand and apply. Apply shows up a lot because if you could apply them, then you should be able to understand them. Analyze, review, and apply, and things like that. So, Captain Petrino, before I turn it over to the other commissioners, I just wanted to advise you of the history here and also to suggest that if things go the way I think they will go, you will end up having a couple of choices. One is to change the verbiage if you feel like that will give you the same robust language as you currently have. The other is to stick with the language and then leave it up to the commission. The third is to go back and think about it and then come back, which I don't think anyone wants. But nonetheless, that's one of your options. So with that, for keeping things brief, I'll ask if any of the other commissioners have something they want to say.
Well, you know I do. Let's see, who's representing the sheriff's office?
See the JP there?
The JP?
Yes.
Is someone there?
Yes.
Oh, there. Oh, right.
Hi,
Thank
my name is Joe Petrillo. I'm a captain over the Professional Standards Division. I'm here and listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Captain. Captain, I would just ask you, in the definition of this, and class characteristic and the typical duties, on number 4, typical duties, do you see number 4?
I do.
Where it says develop and maintain positive relationships, et cetera, and build trust, explains and enforces state and local laws. Now, I think that's great, and that's the way I think it should be. You know, and what I would ask is, now when we look over to minimum qualifications and it says ability, you see there where that paragraph is? On the next page. Under minimum qualifications, it has education, license, knowledge of, and ability to.
Yes, I do. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. You see where it says ability to, it says interpret and apply laws. Would you have a problem with just putting what you have there in the first part, explain and apply laws? And the reason I'm saying that is because as a attorney who's practiced over 30 years, and I really believe that government, executive branch, and that's what you would be under, the executive branch, because you enforce laws. You know, you don't make them, you apply them and enforce them. That, you know, it's truly only the judicial branch that interprets laws. And then eventually it goes up and it ends up in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decides then whether a law is constitutional or fair or muddled, you know. So would you have a problem just putting explain there instead of interpret?
Before you answer that, I just want to let you know that the commission is not united in this concern. And I want you to know that county council does not agree with this interpretation. And finally, I want you to know that you have the right to use the robust language you need. Now, having said that, certainly I don't want to suggest that you don't consider Mr. Gutierrez's comment, but I just wanted to let you know those things.
I don't think you would have much of a problem with that, would you, officer? I mean, you have it in the duties.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me, sir?
Excuse me?
I just wanted to confirm the commission can hear me.
Yes.
Okay,
Before you
thank you.
answer that, I'd like to ask our lawyer here, Mark, who interprets laws? In our system of government, of course.
Well, the final interpretation is with the courts.
Could you repeat that, please?
The final interpretation is with the courts.
Courts, yes.
But of course, that doesn't mean that the court is the only one who interprets the law, because everything would come to a dead halt if that were true.
I don't think that's true at all.
Of course it is.
No, it's not. It's not true at all.
As a former regulator, I not only interpreted the law, but I also wrote regulations. And the agency was authorized to
Well,
do
one thing is
such.
writing laws and passing laws, and of course, that's legislative branch. But we pass policy, but we don't interpret the law.
Okay, I'll make one more comment, and then you make one more comment, and then we'll turn it back to the captain. So my last comment is that, as county council just pointed out, if there is a regulation or a law that someone brings a suit against, and I'm aware that you're an attorney, that someone brings a suit against, then the final interpretation of that is the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, if there is no one bringing a suit, then the agency has the authority to interpret. And even if you don't agree with that,
No, I don't.
just let me reiterate that if, my personal belief is that a department has the right to write their own job descriptions that they need. And I believe they should be allowed to use the language that they want to use. We are here to see if there's any violations of the civil service rules. That's our purpose. So I think I made myself clear. One more comment, and then let's move on.
I think that we want to make sure that everybody knows we know the law and we know government. And I think it makes us look like we don't understand the differences in the branches of government. And you remember who was here that said it, the district attorney, the elected district attorney was here and he says, we do not interpret laws. We explain them, we may teach them, we apply them, and we enforce them. But we don't interpret them. He said the courts interpret the law.
Okay, I said I wouldn't make another comment, but I am going to anyway.
I don't know why this is so, what is this? This is just an ego thing with you, I think.
It is not. It is the defense of the department for me. The defense attorney, when he was here, you gave him incomplete information.
That's not true.
Anyone, if you ask them who interprets the law, they're going to interpret that question, they're going to think that question means the Supreme Court, of course, because we all learned that in civics class. We know that's true. No one's saying you're not true. We're just saying, I'm saying, and I believe if you looked at the preponderance of the word interpret in job descriptions, I think the county also sees it this way, which is that the word interpret simply means, can you look at them and, well, I'm not going to define it. Sorry, I went down a path I didn't want to. Now, if the sheriff's department is inclined to change the language, then that's fine, and we can move forward with a motion with the amended language. If the sheriff's department decides to stick with the language as presented, then that's fine, and we can move forward with a motion to accept the job description. Okay, this time I really am going to be quiet.
Do you have a problem with using the word explain? You have it in your typical duties, and I think it's really proper there, because interpreting the law is not of the executive branch. It's the task of the judicial branch. And I think it makes it look like we know what we're doing.
And I do think it would be
I think-
helpful to hear from another commissioner. Commissioner Lee?
If I may, when you talk about interpretation, as you said, Chairman, interpret can have numerous levels of meanings and understandings. And as the attorney said, the bottom line, it's interpreted, the final interpretation comes to the court in the final decision. But it is to the officer's responsibility to interpret whether or not that law applies in that situation. So there is a level of interpretation. Now, if it's rebutted, then you can get an attorney and you can fight it in court and then have your final judicial say. But there has to be an interpretation. In my line of work, we jump from one company to another, and every time we jump from one customer to another, we had to relearn their language or interpret their understanding, which has been sort of a shortcoming of mine coming into the Commissioners Board, because what we do in the, I'll say the outside business world and versus the government, there's a lot of different language and it has to have interpretation. So there's a lot of things that's written up here that I have to study the interpretation of. So there is a degree of interpretation, and I feel like that should stand because there is a degree of interpretation, and if there is a rebuttal, then every person has a right to obtain an attorney and argue it in court and let them have their last judicial say.
Well, I'll just point out that, yes, when you do that, that's fine because you're not in government, you're in private. A private, that's different. This is with government. This is different, and it's written in the laws. And right now, there's a big battle going on in our whole courts about who can interpret the laws. And it's important. It's really what our country is built on. We're a country of laws, and our government is such that, you know, only in terms of interpreting those, only the judicial branch does.
Thank
I would
you,
like to make a
Commissioner
motion.
Gutierrez and Commissioner Lee. I think everyone's views. Mr. Lee, were you about to make a motion?
I was in response
wanna
to
hear
his
from
statement
the-
that
from
there is
the-
a case
Excuse me, sir.
in court working. I am all for following the letter of the law. And if there is a law that has been established, then let's follow it. But if it hasn't, then I feel like the issue should be tabled until there is an established ruling. And then it's upon the county to go back and rewrite their language. But I don't feel like that it's our responsibility as commissioners to have that forward step in determining something that has not been determined in our state nor our federal courts yet. Though it is an argument, it's just not been ruled on.
Thank you. And I would like to ask the captain, in the beginning, I said you had 3 choices. One was to amend the job description with the language that, well, with any language you want, really. I was going to say the language that's been suggested, but whatever you want. The other is to ask the commission to consider the description, the classification as written. And then the third is to take some time and go back and think about it. Do you know which one you're going to do?
And I'm sorry, Captain Petrino, if you don't mind, I'm going to step in one moment.
Okay.
I just want to point out that the request of the commission to amend the specification, the language that Commissioner Gutierrez has referred to is existing civil service approved language. We're making amendments to the specification. That was not one of the proposed changes. Certainly, it is up to the commission to request additional table changes, but I just want to point out that that is not new language. It's already approved by this commission. That interpretation language is there currently.
Thank you. I think that was very useful to hear. So, Captain.
Thank you. I do have a direction I would like to speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Office regarding this matter. I appreciate the dissenting viewpoints. I certainly do not hold a Juris Doctorate degree. I'm not sure I heard a specific question to this, although I think I did. The commissioner just to the right of my screen that's out of my view a little bit asked me if I'd be okay with the change of the verbiage. You know, again, I'm not a legal expert. I am a peace officer in the state of California in the county of San Joaquin. I have made arrests, both misdemeanor and felony, and done a bunch of other stuff as a peace officer. I think if I don't disagree that there is a formal process for the term or the word interpret that the courts hold, and they hold that at various levels for various reasons and purposes. I can tell you from a practical application standpoint, peace officers interpret the law every day, every minute of the day. That's exactly what they are out there doing. In fact, it is your job to do that. And sometimes it's real easy and sometimes it's real hard. And sometimes you have a lot of time to do it and sometimes you have to do it in a split second. So my choice for the department, if that suffices with regards to a response to this commission, would be to maintain the classification study review request submission as is and proceed with this commission's opinion or vote on the matter.
I'd
Okay.
like to ask you, Captain, let me I'm a commissioner and I have just as much right as you do.
I appreciate that.
That's right.
I was
Okay.
just going to thank him for what I considered something very clear.
Right.
Now, sir,
Are you aware of a situation where officers went to a judge and tried to get a search warrant? They wanted a search warrant. And the judge said they wouldn't provide the search warrant because it was not signed under penalty of perjury. And the officers told the judge, this is an incident here in our county, now you may be aware of it or not. And the judge, the officers told the judge that they didn't think they had to sign it under penalty of perjury. The judge tells them, well, that's how I interpret the law. That is, my job, and that's why I interpret it. It has to be signed under penalty of perjury, the request, the affidavit. And the officer told him, well, our captain has a different interpretation of the law, or our superiors, and we have a different interpretation of the law. That's the kind of things that get muddled under, these words are important. And that's why I think it's extremely important that it's recognized that courts interpret the law, judicial branch only, not executive branch.
Commissioner Gutierrez, thank you for that anecdote. And at this
It's
point,
not well, yes, okay.
it is
It's something that really happened.
for that true story. And at this point, the sheriff's office has spoken. And we've spent almost a half an hour, oh, no, we didn't. Never mind. We spent a while on this. I misspoke there for a moment. I do have a very small typo under typical duties. It's very small, but I just thought it should be changed nonetheless. Let me see if I can find it. So I have a red line strikeout. Under typical duties, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you get to 8, and it simply says interviewing victims, comma, witness, comma, and subjects. So I'm pretty confident that was supposed to be witnesses. It's small, but nonetheless, as the commissioner just said, language is important.
What number was that, Commissioner? I apologize.
Sure, that's no problem. It's number 8, so it's under typical duties. And I happen to be looking at Sheriff's Animal Services Officer 1, but it's also under Offices 2. So if you look at the typical duties and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, when you get to 8, the one that says learn skills needed to investigate, including interviewing victims, witnesses, and suspects.
You're
I
talking
misspoke.
about the witness being
Yeah,
singular,
yes.
not plural?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, that appears to be a typographical error to me.
That's what I thought. And so if, when we make a motion, we will include editorial, changing witness to witnesses, the typo. Okay, with that, I'm ready to hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve as it's presented with just as in the task, it says, explain and enforces state and local laws as task number 4. That, and written in later on, the ability to explain and apply laws be there, explain instead of interpret.
And I want that for the record, so that there's a good, clear understanding that, we understand government.
For want of a second, the motion has failed.
I want it in the minutes, please.
I'm ready to entertain another motion.
Make a motion to accept the ASO reclassification with the clerical correction on the number 8 typical duties, witnesses being plural.
Thank you, and I'll second the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No?
The motion is passed. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the next classification project for the Assistant Integrated Waste Manager.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Lofstrom, or Chair Lofstrom, Commissioners. Amy Brimmer, Human Resources. This is Classification Project 23-032 for the Public Works Department. This item requests to adopt a new classification specification for Assistant Integrated Waste Manager and to amend the existing Solid Waste Operations Manager. Human Resources collaborated with Public Works to create a second-level manager in the Solid Waste Division. Assistant Integrated Waste Manager will support the Integrated Waste Manager by overseeing daily operations of multiple functional areas of solid waste and provide assistance with administrative duties. With the implementation of California Senate Bill 1383, new and complex regulatory mandates generated by this legislation are significantly affecting how the Solid Waste Division coordinates and delivers services, particularly with regard to enforcement of food and organic material diversion, public education, and their overall operations. Due to the demand for expansion of an already broad range of services and oversight required of solid waste to ensure compliance with SB 1383, we're proposing to add another layer in to assist with a lot of the interpretation and the administrative role that is needed to ensure compliance. Human Resources notified the San Joaquin County Management Association on May 23rd and received no objections to the classification specification. I'm available for questions regarding the classification study, and Deputy Director of Public Works Operations, David Tolliver, is available in person should you have questions of the department.
Thank you. I really appreciate your including the, oh gosh, I just forgot what it's called. Org chart. Thank you. Thank you for your help. I really appreciate that. That helped me a lot. That was my only comment. Do either of the other two commissioners have a comment or a question?
Oh, I think it was very well presented.
In that case, I will entertain a motion to adopt the classification specification for Assistant Integrated Waste Manager and amend the class spec for Solid Waste Operations Manager.
I so move. Approve it.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And this project has passed as well. Thank you. And next we have the Registrar of Voters classification project. Yes? Yes.
Okay, there we go. Molly Boonslot presenting classification project 24008, election specialist. The registrars of voters submitted a request for Human Resources to update the classification specifications for election specialists. The ROV is responsible for facilitation of voter registrations and to encourage eligible voters to participate in the elections process. The election specialist classification was intended to perform geographic information systems related tasks such as designing and mapping of precincts and districts. The ROV has since shifted these duties to a GIS specialist within the department. Duties now completed by the election specialist align more closely with the work performed by elections technicians. The draft of the classification specifications were shared with SEIU on May 28th, and the union responded with no issues. The Registrar of Voters, Olivia Hill, is present should you have any questions of myself or the department.
I have a question, but I'll wait and see if either of the other commissioners do.
Yeah, I guess I have the same question here. Have you been listening to us so far?
Oh, she's actually here as well.
Oh, oh, you're over there. Okay, again, I will point out, I think you've heard my reasoning, that you have on your typical duties, number 4, research and applies election laws, which I think is very good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then under ability 2, would you have a problem then, ability to research and then take and interpret out and use explain? I mean,
Election time, yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
see it.
that was language already approved by civil service though, so there was no amendments. Just-
excuse me?
Oh, that was, that language, again, was already approved by civil service prior to, not saying that we can't change it, but there was
Yeah,
no
well, we
red
can
line.
always change it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah,
to.
I know it's been
let that
approved.
know.
It was also approved by the Supreme Court to have slavery at one time, but we changed that.
Oh, no, I understand. I
Yeah,
just
so-
wanted to note
Sure,
that there was
I'm
no red line
I'm
for that.
sure that it was at one time, otherwise it wouldn't be in here.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't make any changes to that. Our goal was to remove the GIS language, so I actually didn't look at that in detail when we did this rewrite of that particular word. But I do agree that we do spend time interpreting the law, interpreting election code. That is something that's in my job description, and many of our staff do spend time doing that. So I would also say that that's warranted, based on what we do every day in our office.
Okay, thank you very much.
And my question is also under typical duties, and it's the new number 2. Prepares a variety of reports, correspondence forms, and other written communication to ensure, it should be ensure that, not ensures, it's tiny typo, but it's not my question, accuracy. So I don't understand that statement, and I think it's new. I looked, I didn't see it already, and I just don't know what that means, because how can you prepare a report to ensure accuracy? I'm wondering if it's left over from the GIS language or not. It says, prepare forms to ensure accuracy. I just am not sure what you mean.
This looks like creating procedures is what we're referring to here. So they prepare a variety of reports, correspondences, forms, and other written communications to ensure accuracy. So creating procedures to ensure that, because elections technician's the first position, and then you have election specialists, and so they would be kind of in between that and the elections technician supervisors. They would help with creating procedures, is I think what we were intending there.
Oh, okay, so if it said to ensure voting procedures that may not be the right phrase. Accuracy, I'm sorry, accuracy of voting procedures.
Accuracy of voting procedures, is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking that's what is meant.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
I would like to say that was my attempt at trying to consolidate a vast, large list of duties, typical duties that they do. So it was my best attempt at trying to say that the election specialist also works with internally, but as well as allowing for it to have providing accuracy of information to potential candidates that are going into the elections, because they do a lot of correspondence there as well. So I didn't want to make it to one particular audience, because the specialists do handle internal candidates. They also handle voter registration. So I kind of felt like it was limiting in doing it. So I think that's why I kind of left it open, tried to leave it as open as possible.
So if I could just suggest for that sentence, and I appreciate, Molly, your sharing kind of what your intent there was. I think we likely expect all of our staff to prepare accurate work, so I think maybe that the whole phrase accuracy is maybe unnecessary, so maybe we could just stop that sentence or that phrase after prepares reports, correspondence, forms, and other written communication.
Great, yeah, so if we just strike that out. Okay, that was my comment. I want to tell you how much I enjoyed reading through this and the work that the election specialists engage in, and it was it was very instructive and impressive.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments? Okay, with that, I'd entertain a motion to accept this project with that one change on number 2.
I make a motion to accept the election specialist 24-008 with the striking of number 2 language. Or the language of number 2, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think it was caught in the minutes. And I will second. And all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. And oppose?
No.
Okay, and the motion is passed. Thank you.
Molly Bunslett again, presenting now classification project 24009 for San Joaquin General Hospital for the Clinical Laboratory Scientist Series. San Joaquin General Hospital submitted a request to Human Resources to update the minimum qualifications for the Clinical Laboratory Scientist 1, 2, and 3 to include the option of allowing individuals with a clinical microbiologist scientist license to qualify when assigned to the microbiology unit. The clinical laboratory scientists are responsible for conducting standardized test examinations and laboratory analysis of specimens for the hospital. Microbiology is recognized as a standalone discipline in the industry and is often requiring a higher level of knowledge to perform complex testing in a specialty of clinical microbiology. The clinical microbiologist licensure is recognized as commensurate with the clinical laboratory scientist generalist license. The draft class specifications for clinical laboratory scientist series was shared with SEIU on May 23rd, and the clinical laboratory operations director, Cecilia Mui, is present should you have any questions of myself or the department.
Thank you. I do have a comment, but I'll wait and see if any of the other commissioners have anything or questions.
No questions.
Okay, mine is just suggested language again. Under, I'm looking at reason for recommendation, but it shows up in the actual classification, but looks like I didn't highlight it. So I'll just tell you what it is. And who's the representative here?
Cecilia Mui.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. It's just, it's very small. In the opening statement where it says specifically to allow individuals with a clinical microbiologist scientist license to qualify for entry into the series when assigned to microbiology. All I would suggest is you put the microbiology unit, because not being familiar with the different units, that genuinely confused me. That's it, yeah. Okay, thank you. And no other comments? Okay, then, I'll entertain a motion to accept the project 24-009 for the laboratory scientists.
I so move.
All those in favor say aye.
It hasn't been seconded.
Aye. And opposed say no. Okay, the motion has passed. And I believe that, yes, so that takes us to our closed session. We will adjourn for closed session, and then we will recommence after the conclusion of that. So this meeting is temporarily adjourned until then.
Let me make sure that they've turned off all.
Yes.
Licensing
Oh.
to include that special license. I mean, because it really attracts talent pool.
Oh, good.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
so much. I've been
absolutely.
trying for almost a year.
Have you?
Yes.
Well, it made perfect sense to all of us, so excellent,
Yeah.
congratulations on
Thank you
getting that
very
through.
much for approving that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
That's really helping out with multiple interpretations of different categories of stuff. Thank you.
And turn back on. The Civil Service Commission is back in session. We were in closed session, we have nothing to report, and we can move on to public comment.
And we have no public comment. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, in that case, the meeting is adjourned.